As an award-winning activist, I have taken it upon myself to create the world that I wish to see. I have so many things that I want to do, so many goals and dreams for the communities that we live in. And I actually believe that I can achieve each and every one of them. It's daunting, but I know I can do it. And the question is how? So, I wasn't always like this. About 10 years ago, somewhere around the same time, I was ready to take my life and commit suicide. So how did someone from 10 years ago at that point in her life reach this stage? And as me, as myself, this person who holds multiple oppressed identities, I mean, I'm Indian, that's an ethnic minority in this country. I'm a Muslim, we all know what that means in this day and age. And I'm a woman, and we all know what that means in all of history. So how did I get from there to here? And that process for me was really important to figure out, because as a youth leader, I spent a lot of time with young people. And my work really is to talk to them about advocacy and impact. But a lot of the times what I hear from them is, well, it's all great and all that, but I don't think I can do it as me. Maybe I need to become a politician or become a millionaire or, just not me. So I knew that if I can just go back, look at the 10 years, find out that formula, what did I do? How did I get here? Then maybe I can help these young people as well. And so I did, you guys. I actually came up with the formula. And it starts with belief. And when I say believe, I'm really talking about believing in that inner voice that we all have. So when I was 17, my parents went through a divorce, and things went downhill from there. My mom, she walked out of the house, she took all her 4 kids with her. I was second of 4 girls. And we were basically homeless from that point. And when I say homeless, I mean in the span of 5 years, we moved 11 times. So lucky for my mom, she's a very generous sibling, so we all, stayed in all the houses, but we never wanted to overstay our welcome, so we kept moving. And we didn't have, nice big lorries to put our stuff in and move. We just threw everything in a black garbage bag and went from house to house, home to home. I had to choose to actually not go to school, to not further my studies. So at an age where all my friends were going to colleges and they were pursuing their studies, that was me, doing odd jobs, just trying to keep things afloat so that my mom didn't have to work as hard. And it got to a point where things were so bad that we didn't even have enough to eat. So my mom would cook Maggi mee, instant noodles, and we would share it in this big plate. And after a few feeds, she would say, "Okay, that's enough. I'm full now. You guys can have the rest." And we all knew she wasn't full, because you can't be full even with 2 Maggi mees. But she was just being a mom. So, having to go through all of that, plus I tried to really stay strong for all of them, so I would never let them see me cry. But one day I just couldn't be strong anymore. So I ran out of my house, went all the way to the top of the building, climbed over the ledge, and I stood there. And I was ready to jump. I was literally 1 step away to end my life. But it was at that point that there was the voice, that inner voice. Now, we all call it by different names. Some of us call it God. Some of us call it an angelic voice, your gut, your instinct. But whatever you call it, you know the voice I'm talking about. And that voice said, no, not today. This is not how your story ends. There is something bigger, there is something better out there for you. And if I were to tell you, if I were to let you picture the scale of that voice and what I was about to do, what every single one of my cells wanted to do, was that voice was a tiny little ant. And everything else was this Godzilla, right? So you can imagine. And it is so easy to just, believe the Godzillas around me because that is what I can see. And that's the thing about belief. Because by definition, the word believe is to accept that something is true, especially without proof. So I had no proof, nor evidence to tell me that if I were to believe this ant voice, things are going to be okay. That I will go back, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, in a month, everything's going to be fine. Everything else around me was telling me, nope, you're going to go back to that same shithole. It's going to be the same thing. But at that moment, I chose to believe. I listened to that voice, I stepped back, and I never looked back. And we hear this story. It plays out in different ways in all our lives. Like when some of us are stuck in bad relationships, or a bad job, or we're just done with the situation and we can't do it anymore. And so sometimes in that position when everything else is telling you, nope, and that can be society, that can be your family, and that voice is just saying, no, you can actually do this. Which is why belief works best with the second part to the formula, and that's courage. And the word courage is it's my favorite word in the English dictionary, because it's such a beautiful word. But the way we use it sometimes, I think, it's quite pathetic. We tell people, pluck courage, go pluck some courage. Like, where am I supposed to pluck it from? Where does courage come from? And so, etymology geek movement right now. So the word courage, right, the original word of the meaning of the word courage, so it comes from the Latin word cor, I think, that's how it's pronounced. And that means, in English, heart. So really, this is where courage comes from. And back then, the word courage was used very differently. The meaning of the word courage was used very differently from how it's used today. So back then, what courage meant, when you say courage, you're saying to speak with all of your mind and do with all of your heart. That's what courage meant. So it is to say something or do something with your whole self, believing with your whole heart. And I think we sometimes underestimate how powerful our courage can be for other people. When I started Back to Basics, an NGO that I run with my sister, so a little bit of context, in Back to Basics, we basically give out free groceries to underprivileged families, and we also help them out of the poverty cycle. So at that time when I wanted to start it, we just had a little bit of stability in our lives. We had a home, things were slowly picking up. It was not perfect yet. So I had this idea, this is what I wanted to do. So I talked to someone I really, whose opinion I really respected, and I told him about it. And he looked at me and he said, "Who do you think you are? You can't even support yourself or your family, and you want to start supporting other people's families?" So I went back home crushed. And I went to tell my friend, who I started the organization with, that, obviously I didn't tell her that humiliating story. What I told her was, hey, you know what, we're only going to start with 3 families. And that was all we had. We only had 3 families to start it with. So, maybe we should wait till, we have like 50 families, so it's more legit to whoever, the society. And she looked at me and she said, "Noor, even if we have 1 family, we're going to do this. I don't care what the society thinks. We're going to do this." And today, Back to Basics is an award-winning organization, and we have impacted over 1,000 families. And that was not even my courage that I was riding on, but hers. And I know when I speak about courage, it seems like this big thing that we need to somehow achieve. Like to have courage means, to save someone from like a burning building. But courage can be very simple and very powerful. And I'll tell you a real story to illustrate this. So back then, in that time when, things were getting hard and things were getting difficult, I did what all people in that position naturally do. I started becoming really close and started exploring my faith, which is Islam. And I became really passionate, that phase where like you read everything and you want to act upon everything, that's written. So in Islam, there's this thing called the salam. Some of you may know it, and it's basically saying salams, assalamu alaikum, and the reply is wa alaikum salam. So may peace be upon you, and vice versa. So then I read a story, one of the prophetic stories, where apparently, so the prophet was walking with his companions, and they gave salam to each other. So every time you meet a Muslim, you give your salam. So they said salams to each other, and then they walked, and then there was a tree, like in the middle. So they walked around that tree. They were gone for like 3 seconds from each other. They came back and they gave salams again. And I was like, oh my God, that's how important it is to give salam. So I thought, you know what, that's it. I'm gonna go out there, every Muslim I see, I'm gonna give them the salams. And here's the thing about the salam when we're talking in the context of Singapore and Malaysia and probably some other Muslim communities. The salam is not something you just say. We also have an action that goes along with it. So over here, we actually put out our right hand, and they will give you their right hand. And if you're younger, then you take their hands and you kiss it, or you put it on your forehead as a sign of respect. So that was what I was going to do. You know how this story is going to end. So I went out that day, the next day. I went to where there will be a lot of Muslims in Singapore, Arab Street. So this was at the train, right? At train station. So I reached the train station. There's a lady standing in front of me, so the condition was I was going to give salams to every Muslim I see, every Muslim woman, because then it's obvious because she's wearing the hijab. So the lady was standing next to me, and I was like, all right, Noor, do it. This is your time. But I couldn't do it because I just couldn't. And she went into the train, and then I stood next to her. I made sure I stood next to her just so I could, give her salams. And like 15 minutes went by. And I thought, if I were to do it now, it's going to be so weird after standing next to her for 15 minutes. So I thought, you know what, I'll do it to someone else. So got off the train, kept seeing Muslims all the way. I just couldn't do it. Like, I didn't have the courage to actually do it. And I thought, come on, Noor, this isn't your religion. Like, are you a good Muslim or not? So I thought, okay, you know what? Next person I see, I'm going to do it. So then 4 ladies in hijab were walking towards me, and I'm like, okay, this is it. Now, 1 goes by, 2, 3. The 4th one, I'm like, now, do it now. So I put out my right hand. I said, Assalamu alaikum. And so her reaction was, wa alaikum salam. And she took my hand and I kissed it. And then she said in Malay, she said, whose child are you? And I thought, oh God, because I knew what just happened. So she thought that I recognized her because she's a friend of my parents. And so she wanted to know who my parents were so that she could praise me. And I was like, no. I'm not anyone's child. I just wanted to give you salams because the story of the Prophet. And I was like, and she just looked at me and she just walked away. And I was like, okay, you know what? Done. I'm not doing this. Forget it. So social experiment failed. I got on the train back home. I was sitting down in the reserved seat. And then door open. This lady walks in. So now at my eye level, all I saw was really wrinkled old hands holding a walking stick in front of me. So I naturally got up to give her the seat. But as I did, I for some weird reason, put out my hand. And she obviously thought I was going to help her to a seat. But no, what did I do? I took her hands and I kissed it. And it must have been like a weird reflex or something. And when I looked up, it was a Chinese woman. And I thought, Ya Allah, God, why me? Why me? And I know some of you thinking, well, she's Chinese, but she could be Muslim. But no, she wasn't. So she sat down in front of me, and I really wanted to go away, but I felt like it was rude, so I should just stand there. And all the time she's just looking at me and smiling, and oh God, okay. And the person next to her got up and left. So I went next to her. So she said, child, come sit next to me. So I sat down next to her, and we started talking. We actually started having a conversation. She told me her name. She told me how many kids she has, how many grandkids they have. I honestly don't remember much of the story, much less her name. But what I will never forget is when her stop came, she got up to leave. And just before she left, she turned around and she said to me, Noor, thank you for kissing my hands, because I have never felt so honored as an old person. And she left. And that was like accidental courage. And this is where we move on to the last and final part of the formula. And that's kindness. And the word kindness is, it sounds easy, but really, kindness demands that you think for someone else, that you feel for someone else. And for that to happen, you need to observe what people are thinking and how they're feeling. But all the time, we're just so cooped up in our own worlds. On our way to work, we're on our phones. During meetings, we're on our phones. We don't even see the world around us. We don't see the people around us, what they're going through, how they're feeling, what they're thinking. Because kindness demands that you observe these things so that oh my God, she's thinking this way. Okay, then I'm going to do this for her. Or she's going through this. Okay, then I'm going to do this for her. So you need to be thinking and doing something for someone else. So, the other day I was on my way for a meeting, and again at the train station. A lot of things happen to me at the train stations. So I saw this man, and he was just standing there next to a shop. So there was a little shop at the train station, and he was just standing next to the shop, and he was looking around. Old Indian man, looking around. And at first I thought, is he lost? But then, he didn't seem lost, and his clothes were a bit disheveled, but I thought, maybe he's just waiting for someone. So I went, and this was about 10 in the morning. So I left, did whatever I had to do, came back about 4, 5 in the evening, and that man was standing in the same exact spot. I thought, okay, now this is not normal. So I went up to him and I said, Uncle, because we call everyone here Uncle, right? Even if you don't know them. So I said, Uncle, are you okay? Is everything okay? And so we had a bit of language difficulty, but I could make out some words. So he was saying he was looking for a job. And then I asked him, okay, like, have you eaten? Like, are you okay? Like, and he said, no, I have not eaten. Do you have a house? Do you have a home to go to? And he says, I don't know where my home is. So I thought, okay, so I told the lady, hey, like, you know, do you mind? And then she was kind enough to give him something to eat. And then I called the neighborhood police post. So basically, the routine is to call the neighborhood police post, let them come down, you know, find out if he's missing, or, you know, get a social service person in touch with him. And so when everything was done and I knew he was, you know, safe and everything was okay, I went back. But, you know, I kept asking myself, did no one else see that man? In all that time, was I really the only person who saw him, who had that opportunity? But that's because, you know, and all I could think of, and no, I'm not extra kind or extra compassionate, but really, I was just observing the world around me. I was just looking at people as I was walking through that busy station. And so, there you have it, the formula: to believe, have courage, and be kind. And is this the end? Is this how we arrive and that's it, we're done? Unfortunately, no, because all of these three things demands that you constantly work on them. You will continuously be tested your whole life with belief. You will always be in situations where you have that end and that Godzilla at war. And that Godzilla can come in many forms. It can be the societies that you belong to, the systems that you're a part of. And your courage will always be tested. And the stakes will get higher and higher each time. Your reputation, your influence, your position. And so will your kindness. Like I said, it is daunting. But I have absolute conviction that if we choose these three all the time, if we continuously work on it all the time, we can create the world we wish to see. I can't help everyone, and I don't think any one of us in this room can help everyone, but each and every one of us can help someone. And that's all the difference it will make. Thank you.